Each morning, long before the sun even hints at rising, 13-year-old Liam wakes on a thin blanket behind an abandoned train station. The air is coldest at this hour, sharp, damp, and heavy with the smell of rusted metal and old railway dust. It clings to his clothes, settles in his lungs, and seeps into his bones. His pillow is his backpack, worn and frayed, filled with the only possessions he owns, a cracked water bottle with peeling blue paint on the cap, a torn notebook whose pages are wrinkled from rain, and a tiny collection of trinkets he has gathered over the years. A bottle cap he thought looked like a coin. A smooth stone shaped like a heart. A key that opens nothing. Little pieces of the world he kept because no one ever gave him anything else to hold on to. As he sits up and brushes the dirt from his hair, the world remains dark, silent, and indifferent. The world rarely sees Liam. To most, he is invisible. Just another shadow drifting through the edges of life, too small, too quiet, too forgotten to matter. He rises, stretching stiff muscles from sleeping on concrete. He wraps his blanket tightly and tucks it behind a metal pipe where no one will steal it. That blanket is his only shield against cold nights. He cannot afford to lose it. He cannot afford to lose anything. Liam begins his daily journey through the city. His shoes are mismatched and too large for his feet, the laces knotted together with string. With every step, the soles slap softly against the pavement. He wanders the streets collecting bottles for recyclables, his fingers numb as he reaches into trash cans behind gas stations and shopping centers. The sharp smell of spoiled food burns his nose, but he pushes through. He has learned not to be picky when survival is on the line. Whenever he finds a bottle or can, he smiles a little. Small victories matter. Sometimes, he digs through trash bins behind restaurants, where warm air from the kitchen exhaust spills into the alley. The contrast of heat and cold reminds him briefly of what comfort used to feel like, before everything was taken from him. Other times, he approaches small shops and offers to clean their windows. Most owners wave him away. A few toss him $1 or $2 if they're feeling generous. A couple yell at him to leave. Every day is a battle between hunger and hope. Some days, hunger wins. But still, he keeps going. Despite everything he has endured, despite the nights spent shivering under bridges, the days walking in soaked shoes during storms, the loneliness that follows him like a silent shadow, there is something unbreakable about the boy. He has a smile that refuses to disappear, even when life tries its hardest to crush it. It is the only thing he has left that the world has not taken. As morning turns into day, Liam passes by neighborhoods filled with laughter and routine. He watches families walk together, mothers holding their children's hands, fathers carrying backpacks, siblings teasing each other. He watches parents dropping their children off at school, kissing them on the forehead before driving away. He watches groups of friends sharing snacks, trading stories, giggling about things he wishes he could understand. Liam observes from afar, careful not to step too close. He never wants to make anyone uncomfortable. He never wants to be seen as a problem. So he stays at the edges, quietly imagining a life where someone waits for him, someone calls his name, someone wonders where he is. A life where he is not alone. When the afternoon sun reaches its highest point, Liam often sits near the park fountain, not to beg, not to ask for anything, but simply to listen. The gentle splash of water as it tumbles over stone. The chirping of birds hidden in the trees overhead. The distant laughter of children chasing each other through the grass. Sound is his comfort. Sound is his sanctuary. It reminds him that the world still has beauty, even if none of it belongs to him. Even if he can only borrow it for a moment. Sometimes he closes his eyes and imagines he is somewhere else, someplace warm, safe, and full of love. He imagines what it would be like to have a bed, a door to lock, a family to come home to. But when he opens his eyes, he sees the same worn park benches, the same cracked pavement, the same people passing by without a second glance. Still, he dreams. Because dreams are free. And they are the only things poverty cannot steal. As the day slowly drifts forward, Liam has no idea that his quiet routine, his unnoticed existence, his overlooked kindness, will soon collide with a world far different from his own. Little does he know, destiny is already steering him toward an unexpected future. A future where courage will define him. Where love will reshape him. Where the world will finally see the boy it has ignored for far too long. Across the vast city, where steel towers glimmer like silver knives against the sky, lives a man whose name commands respect in every corner of the business world. Alexander Hart. A figure spoken about in boardrooms, financial networks, and political circles. He is a billionaire whose business empires stretch across continents. Technology, real estate, medicine, transportation, and more. Within the walls of his skyscrapers, thousands of employees rely on his decisions. Across the globe, markets shift when he speaks. He is a man known for precision, strategy, and absolute control. But beneath the polished image, beneath the gleaming suits, luxury cars, and iron security gates, lies a grief heavier than money could ever measure. A private sorrow so deep that even the richest man cannot escape it. Because behind the walls of his estate waits a wound that no amount of wealth can heal. His daughter, 16-year-old Emily Hart, once the brightest and purest light in his life, is paralyzed from the waist down. 6 months earlier, a tragic accident shattered her world, and his. A sudden crash on a rainy night stole her ability to walk, but even worse, it stole her joy, her laughter, and the spark that once lit every room she entered. Emily was a girl made of sunshine. Vibrant. Curious. Full of life. She used to dance through the marble hallways of their mansion, her footsteps echoing with freedom. She'd spin in front of her father's office door until he would finally look up from his work, smile, and scoop her into a hug. She would sing while brushing her hair, hum melodies while painting, laugh at even the smallest jokes. Emily brought warmth into every corner of Alexander's home. But now she sits in her wheelchair beside her bedroom window, day after day, staring silently at the world outside. The gardens she once ran through. The pond she once skipped stones across. The driveway where she used to wave goodbye to her father each morning. She watches it all from behind the glass, separated, distant, disconnected. Her eyes no longer glow with excitement. Her hands no longer reach for brushes, books, or music. Her voice rarely rises above a whisper, if she speaks at all. She doesn't laugh. She barely smiles. The accident didn't just take her mobility. It took the very soul of who she was. Alexander blames himself for everything. He replays the night of the accident endlessly in his mind, every detail, every missed signal, every second he wasn't there to protect her. Though the world insists it wasn't his fault, his heart refuses to believe it. A father's guilt has no logic. Only weight. And Alexander carries it everywhere he goes. In his desperation, he has exhausted his resources not on business, but on hope. He has hired the best doctors from across the world. Specialists flown in from Europe, Asia, and South America. Therapists with groundbreaking reputations. Neurologists with advanced research backgrounds. He has spared no expense, millions poured into treatments, machines, medications, and experimental therapies. But nothing brings back the daughter he remembers. No smile. No laughter. No movement. Only silence. Only a fragile heartbeat behind sad, empty eyes. And with each failed attempt, the mansion shifts subtly, growing colder, quieter. The once lively hallways feel hollow. The grand chandeliers seem dimmer. The echo of footsteps feels heavier. Even the staff walk slower, speak softer, as though afraid to disturb the sorrow settling like dust upon every surface. The mansion, despite its size, feels smaller. As though grief has shrunk the walls and tightened the air. And Alexander, despite his wealth, feels poorer than he has ever felt before. Money cannot buy back his daughter's laughter. It cannot rewind time. It cannot lift the burden crushing his heart. He stands in his office, surrounded by awards, contracts, and achievements, symbols of success that now mean absolutely nothing. Because none of them can solve the problem he wakes up to every morning. Something is missing. Something vital. Something no amount of gold, influence, or power can purchase. Not a doctor. Not a machine. Not a treatment. What Emily needs is something far more rare. Something pure. Something found only in the unlikeliest places. And that something, that spark, that warmth, that miracle, is about to arrive in the form of a homeless boy. A boy whose world could not be more different from theirs. A boy with nothing to his name but hope, kindness, and a heart that refuses to break. The lives of a billionaire and a forgotten child are about to collide. And neither of them will ever be the same. On one particularly cold evening, a biting wind sweeps through the city streets, curling around every corner and rattling loose metal signs like hollow chimes. The sky is already dark, though the night is still young. Street lamps flicker with tired yellow light, barely piercing the thick fog that rolls in like a silent tide. Liam trudges along the quiet road on the outskirts of downtown, his hands buried deep in the pockets of his thin jacket. He moves slowly, trying to conserve warmth, his breath clouding the air in pale white puffs. The world feels especially harsh tonight, sharp, unforgiving, and colder than usual. That's when he sees it. A sleek luxury car pulled over near the curb, its hazard lights blinking like faint, dying stars. Smoke billows from under the hood, drifting upward in ghostly spirals. To Liam, it's an unusual sight in this part of town. But he thinks nothing of it at first. After all, rich people break down too. He continues walking. But then he hears it. A sound so sudden, so sharp, that it freezes him in place. A scream. Not just any scream, but the sound of pure fear. Panic. Helplessness. A girl's voice. Afraid. Trapped. Desperate. Liam's heart jolts. His instincts awaken instantly, like a fire igniting in his chest. He sprints toward the noise, his feet slapping the pavement. He hides behind a streetlight pole, peeking carefully. Through the tinted window of the back seat, he sees her, Emily Hart. Though he has no idea who she is yet. All he sees is a girl gripping her wheelchair so tightly her knuckles are white, her hands trembling uncontrollably. Her eyes are wide with terror. Her driver, the man responsible for her safety, is nowhere in sight, having left to find help but never returning. The minutes she waited alone have already turned into something dangerous. Because now, two masked men approach the stalled car. Their silhouettes stretch across the pavement, distorted by the flickering lights. They move with confidence. Purpose. Intent. Liam watches as they try the door handle. Emily tries to shout, but fear traps her voice in her throat. Her breathing is fast and shallow. She presses back against the seat as if she could disappear into it. To her, everything is happening too fast. To Liam, everything is happening too clearly. He sees their plan, their desperation, their threat. And he feels something he hasn't felt in a long time, anger. Not for himself. But for her. Without thinking, without considering the danger, without weighing the risks, without any hesitation, Liam takes action. Not because he's brave. Not because he's strong. But because someone needs him. His feet move before his mind catches up. His heartbeat thunders in his chest like a drum. The world narrows into a single, clear mission. Protect the girl. He lunges toward a patch of dirt and gravel on the ground. In one swift motion, he scoops it up into his small hands. Then, using every ounce of strength in his body, he hurls it at the men. The dirt explodes in their faces, sand, rocks, and grit scattering across eyes and skin. The men stumble back, cursing and wiping frantically. Their vision blurs. Their balance falters. And in that instant, Liam does what he does best, he uses his voice. He screams at the top of his lungs, his voice ringing through the empty street. Help! Somebody help! His shout slices through the silence. Lights in nearby apartment windows flicker on. Dogs begin barking. Pedestrians turn their heads, startled by the commotion. The would-be thieves panic. Not wanting to be seen or caught, they turn and run, tripping over themselves as they disappear down the alleyway. The sound of their footsteps fades into the night until there is nothing but silence again. Liam stands there, breathing hard, sweat mixing with the cold air. His hands shake, not from fear, but from the adrenaline rushing through his veins. He rushes to the car window and presses his hands against the glass. Inside, he sees her face streaked with tears, her shoulders trembling. He carefully pulls the door open and kneels beside her. "Are you hurt?" he asks softly, his voice gentler than the wind around them. Emily shakes her head, unable to form words yet. Her breathing slowly steadies. Her eyes lock onto his, the eyes of a stranger who appeared out of nowhere like a guardian. It is the first time Emily has spoken to anyone outside her family since the accident. The trauma had stolen her voice. Stolen her connection to the world. But something about this boy, this moment, this bravery, breaks through the wall she had built around her heart. "Thank you," she whispers. Just 2 words. But they mean everything. To her. To him. To the future that neither of them can yet imagine. Because those 2 words, fragile yet powerful, will change both of their lives forever. Minutes after the thieves disappear into the shadows, the night is suddenly broken by the roar of an engine. A sleek black SUV races down the road, its tires screeching as it jerks to a stop beside the smoking luxury car. The headlights spill across the pavement like 2 harsh, white suns. The back door flings open, and out steps Alexander Hart. Powerful, imposing, and visibly shaken. His guards spill out behind him in a protective formation, scanning the area, hands near their holsters, eyes sharp as predators. Their voices buzz in frantic whispers as they confirm the scene is secure. But Alexander sees only one thing. His daughter. Emily. His breath catches in his throat as he spots her in the back seat, her face stained with tears, her hands trembling against the armrests of her wheelchair. Every fear he's had since the accident slams into him all at once. He rushes forward, almost tripping over himself in his panic. But then, he sees someone else. A boy. Young. Dirty. Thin. Wearing clothes too small and shoes too big. A boy who looks like he has survived storms that Alexander has never even imagined. Liam. The sight of a homeless child standing beside his daughter sets off every alarm in Alexander's mind. His expression hardens instinctively. His voice is sharp, demanding, laced with fear. At first, he assumes Liam is the one responsible for the trouble, perhaps part of a larger plan, a distraction, a setup. His guards move toward the boy, suspicion in every step. But before Alexander can lash out, before he can accuse or order or protect, something unexpected happens. Emily speaks. She interrupts him, quickly, urgently, with a voice he hasn't heard in months. A voice not empty or flat, but full of emotion. She tells him the truth. She tells him that Liam saved her. Her words stopped the world. For the first time in a long time, Alexander sees her eyes lit by something other than sorrow. He sees color returning to her face. He sees life. Awareness. Strength. For the first time in months, Emily is present. Alive. Awake. Because of this boy. This stranger. This nobody. This forgotten child whom society walks past without a glance. Alexander looks at Liam again, but this time differently. There is confusion in his eyes. Curiosity. Disbelief. Why? Why would a boy with nothing to his name, no safety, no support, no one to protect him, risk everything for someone he had never met? The world has often been cruel to children like Liam. People ignore them, avoid them, treat them as problems instead of people. So why would he step forward when others would step back? Alexander asks, though his voice is softer than before. And Liam? Liam doesn't offer some dramatic answer. He doesn't talk about bravery. He doesn't talk about fear. He doesn't boast or explain. He simply shrugs with a quiet honesty that cuts straight to the heart. She needed help. 16 letters. 3 words. Simple. Pure. Undeniable. The sincerity of the answer humbles the billionaire more than any lecture ever could. It exposes the imbalance between the world he controls and the world this boy survives in. He has spent fortunes trying to protect his daughter. But it was a child with nothing who protected her first. Something shifts inside Alexander. A crack opens in the armor of power he has worn for years. He steps closer, not as a billionaire, not as a figure of authority, but as a father. As a man who has just witnessed a miracle performed by the most unlikely angel. He thanks Liam. Not with grand gestures or dramatic words. But with sincerity. And then, surprising even himself, Alexander makes a decision, one instinctive, immediate, and completely out of character. He invites Liam to the mansion for dinner. The guards exchange stunned glances. Even Emily's eyes widen with disbelief. Liam blinks, unsure whether he heard correctly. A billionaire. Inviting a homeless child. Into his home? Word spreads quickly among the staff. Many disapprove. Some whisper judgments under their breath. Others look Liam up and down with wrinkled noses and tightened lips. They question his presence. His clothes. His smell. His background. But Emily defends him every time. Because in her eyes, Liam is not dirty or poor or strange. He is not a burden or a threat. He is the first person, outside of her father, who treated her like a person. Not a patient. Not a problem. Not a tragedy. But a girl who needed help. And was worth helping. As Liam walks through the mansion doors for the first time, he steps across a threshold that will change his life, and Emily's, forever. Their unlikely friendship begins that night. Forged not by similarity. Not by convenience. But by courage, compassion, and fate. 2 worlds, one of wealth, one of survival. Finally meet. And nothing will ever be the same again. Over the next few weeks, Liam becomes a fixture in the Hart mansion. He arrives each day with the quiet persistence of someone who has nowhere else to be, yet somehow carries the weight of the world lightly on his shoulders. Emily waits for him like the sunrise waits to spill over the horizon, eager, anxious, and full of hope she hasn't felt in months. Each day, Liam brings with him stories from the streets. The small triumphs, the minor misadventures, the glimpses of beauty hidden in the corners of a city that most people pass without noticing. He talks about pigeons chasing crumbs, windows that shine like mirrors, and the rain that turns alleys into rivers. His words, simple and unpolished, carry magic. To Emily, they are nothing short of miraculous. And he makes her laugh. Not just the polite, fleeting chuckle that had begun to reappear occasionally during therapy, but real laughter. Belly deep, echoing laughter that spills from her lips and fills the room. The kind of laughter Alexander thought had died along with the accident. Liam listens, too. He listens to the silences, the sighs, the tears that Emily can't quite find the words for. He doesn't judge. He doesn't pity her. He simply sits with her, shares his stories, and allows her to feel human again. Slowly, imperceptibly, Emily begins to move. Not just physically, but emotionally. She starts participating in her therapy sessions again, not out of obligation, but out of desire. Liam cheers for her every time she lifts her legs, stretches her arms, or shifts her weight in the wheelchair. He celebrates the small victories, a tremble of movement, a smile, a sound of effort, a crack in the wall of hopelessness. Sometimes she fails. Sometimes she collapses in frustration. But Liam never falters. He kneels beside her, whispering encouragement, holding her hand when her grip falters, reminding her that every attempt matters. Every tiny step forward is a triumph. The doctors notice the change first. They exchange glances of surprise, disbelief, and cautious hope. Progress they had not seen in months begins to appear, subtle at first, then undeniable. Emily pushes herself, motivated by a boy who has nothing but gives everything he can. Meals with her father become less strained. She speaks more. She smiles more. She even laughs at the dinner table, cracking jokes Liam taught her or making faces that send the staff giggling. Alexander watches this transformation with a mixture of wonder and disbelief. For the first time since the accident, the mansion feels alive again. The echo of silence that haunted the hallways begins to lift. The once cold rooms are warmer. The heavy curtains of grief start to part. And it is all because of a child Alexander had never expected to meet. Liam, who has nothing in the world, unknowingly heals the entire household. Not with money. Not with influence. Not with a magic cure. But with something far rarer. A heart that refuses to close. A spirit that refuses to give up. A courage that shines brighter than any chandelier in the mansion. Alexander observes Liam closely, day by day, and begins to understand something he has never truly grasped. There are things money cannot buy. There are treasures that cannot be discovered in boardrooms, bank accounts, or private jets. And one of those treasures is this boy, this child whose kindness radiates so fiercely that it changes everyone around him. Yet, beneath Liam's bright smile, beneath the laughter and the jokes, beneath the courage and the gentle heart, lies a secret. A shadow he carries alone. A darkness shaped by nights spent in cold alleys, by hunger gnawing at his stomach, by a past that is raw, unhealed, and lonely. No one in the mansion sees it, not yet. Not Emily. Not Alexander. Not even the staff. But it is there, quietly lurking beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself, a reminder that even the brightest light often comes from the most fragile source. And while Liam brings life back into Emily's world, there is a storm brewing in his own. A storm that will test the limits of courage, of trust, and of the bonds that have just begun to form. As the days turn into weeks, a quiet tension begins to stir beneath the surface of the Hart household. Alexander watches Liam closely, noticing more than anyone else does, the way the boy flinches at sudden noises, the way he hesitates when asked about his past, the way shadows seem to follow him even in broad daylight. Gently, Alexander begins to ask questions. Simple questions at first. Where Liam sleeps at night. What kind of food he likes. Stories from his childhood. Each question is met with a polite dodge. A shrug. A change of subject. Liam is careful, protective, as though the past is a fragile glass ornament, and even a whisper could shatter it. Alexander, patient and observant, does not push. He senses that the boy's history is not just a story, it is a wound. A wound that has shaped the way he sees the world, that has taught him survival at a cost no child should ever pay. One evening, after dinner, the household settles into a rare moment of quiet. The staff has left, the mansion is hushed, and the only sounds are the faint ticking of the grandfather clock and the low hum of the city outside. Liam sits at the edge of the grand staircase, quietly tracing patterns in the wood with his fingers. Alexander approaches and sits beside him, close enough to offer comfort but far enough to give space. And then, in a voice barely above a whisper, Liam speaks. He wasn't always homeless. He tells Alexander everything, slowly, cautiously, as if afraid the words might vanish into the air before he can finish. His parents, kind, loving, gentle, taken away in a sudden car accident caused by a drunk driver. He was the only one to survive. No relatives were willing to take him in. The foster system, already stretched beyond capacity, failed him. He drifted from one temporary home to another, eventually slipping through the cracks. Alone. Unwanted. Forgotten. Alexander listens, each word like a hammer striking against the steel walls of his heart. His wealth, his power, his endless resources, all of it had shielded him from tragedies like this. He has never faced a child living on the streets, abandoned, hungry, invisible. And now, here it is, stark and undeniable. Sitting right in front of him. He feels the weight of every empty plate, every cold night, every moment of fear Liam endured. And for the first time in years, Alexander's money feels useless. He cannot buy away grief. He cannot buy away loss. He cannot buy away loneliness. The house, once bright with progress, feels heavy again, not with despair, but with understanding. A realization of how fragile life can be, and how extraordinary courage often comes from the most unexpected places. Meanwhile, Emily's progress continues at an almost miraculous pace. Her laughter grows more frequent. She participates eagerly in her therapy sessions. She moves with determination. She engages with her father again. But one day, during a routine session, disaster strikes. Emily collapses mid-exercise. Her body, exhausted and strained, gives out. Panic floods the room as therapists rush to her side. Alexander's heart races, pounding in his chest like a drum. Doctors run tests, their faces grave. The news is devastating, her condition is worsening. If she does not undergo a rare, complex surgical procedure soon, she may never walk again. The room feels suffocating. Even the walls of the mansion seem to shrink. Time stretches unbearably thin. The surgeons required for such an operation are nearly impossible to contact, specialists whose schedules are booked months in advance, often working in far-flung corners of the world. Liam hears the name of the doctor mentioned by the team, and his eyes widen. Recognition sparks in them, sharp and immediate. He knows this surgeon. Not just by reputation. Not just by skill. This was the same doctor who had treated his mother before she died. Memories surge unbidden, the sterile white of the hospital room, the hum of machines, the ache of helplessness as he watched someone he loved slip away. But within that memory is knowledge. Knowledge of how to reach the surgeon. Knowledge of what must be done. For the first time since entering the Hart household, Liam feels the kind of clarity that comes only from purpose. The pieces of his past, once a burden, now guide him. He knows exactly where to find the surgeon. He knows exactly what must be done to save Emily. And though the challenge is immense, spanning the city, crossing barriers that Alexander's wealth alone could not move, Liam steps forward with a resolve born of experience, necessity, and courage. Because saving a life is not about money. It is about knowledge. It is about heart. And Liam has both in abundance. Time is slipping through their fingers like sand. Every minute that passes brings a heavier weight of urgency, a sharper edge of fear. Emily's surgery is no longer a possibility to consider, it is a necessity. Without it, the light in her life may dim forever. Without it, the chance for her to walk again could vanish completely. Liam steps forward with quiet determination. He has no wealth, no influence, no backup. But he has knowledge, courage, and a memory that has never failed him. He knows where to find the surgeon who can save her. Alexander, for all his power, hesitates. The streets Liam leads him through are alien. The polished city he knows, the towers, the galleries, the secure roads, vanish as they move deeper into a part of the city Alexander has never dared to enter. They pass abandoned buildings with graffiti bleeding across walls, windows cracked and dark. Alleyways narrow into shadows, twisting and folding back upon themselves. The air smells different here. Of wet concrete, dust, and faint smoke. Pedestrians glance at Alexander with curiosity, unease, and judgment. They notice the suit, the luxury watch, the car that had accompanied him only until the boundaries of safety ended. Yet Liam moves confidently, unafraid. Each step is deliberate, each turn calculated. He knows this part of the city like the lines on his own hand. Finally, after winding through streets lined with cramped clinics, crowded waiting rooms, and children sitting on steps under dim lamps, they arrive at a small community center. Its sign is faded, paint peeling, but inside is the doctor they need. The surgeon sees Liam immediately. Recognition flashes in his eyes, a spark of memory of a small, brave boy who had stayed at his dying mother's bedside. The memory is vivid, the connection instant. Liam does not hesitate. He tells the story of Emily, of her accident, of the collapse in therapy, of the impossible urgency. His voice is steady, carrying both the gravity of the situation and the purity of his intentions. He does not beg. He does not manipulate. He presents the truth, simple and clear. The surgeon listens. And when he understands, he agrees. Not out of obligation, but because Liam's sincerity leaves no other choice. The boy has no agenda, no personal gain, only the desire to save a life. The day of the surgery arrives. Back at the Hart Mansion, the atmosphere is thick with tension. The staff moves silently, shadows of fear and hope blending in every corner. Alexander sits in his private study, hands clasped, eyes closed, praying with a desperation that money cannot summon. Every heartbeat is a drum of worry, every tick of the clock a thunderous echo in the silent halls. Liam waits outside the operating room, pacing with his small frame, hands trembling, fingers entwined in nervous knots. He has been through so much, endured so much, and yet nothing compares to this. Every second stretches into an eternity. Hours pass. Time is measured in breath, in footfalls, in whispered updates from nurses and assistants. The sterile smell of the hospital corridors becomes a weight pressing down, the fluorescent lights harsh against anxious eyes. Then, finally, the door opens. The surgeon steps out, exhausted, his face lined with fatigue but softened by a smile. "It's a success," he says. Those words, simple yet profound, ripple through the mansion and the city alike. Emily is safe. Her life is no longer hanging by a thread. Hope, fragile but persistent, has returned. Liam exhales, releasing weeks of tension in a shuddering breath. Alexander's shoulders slump, tears threatening to spill as the relief washes over him. The mansion, once heavy with sorrow, feels different now. There is light in the air. There is warmth. There is possibility. Emily's journey is far from over, but the first step has been taken. The impossible has been made real, not by wealth, not by influence, but by courage, knowledge, and a heart willing to act when it mattered most. And in that moment, a bond is cemented. A connection between the homeless boy and the billionaire, between two worlds that had never collided, forged in urgency, compassion, and hope. For the first time in months, the Hart Mansion feels alive again. Weeks pass, and the world begins to change in subtle, miraculous ways. The mansion, once silent and heavy with sorrow, now hums with life. Laughter echoes through hallways, footsteps patter across polished floors, and for the first time in months, the air is filled with anticipation, hope, and the quiet thrill of possibility. Then, one afternoon, a moment arrives that will be remembered forever. Emily, her face flushed with determination, positions herself in her wheelchair near the center of the grand living room. Alexander stands beside her, hands shaking slightly, eyes wide with both hope and fear. Liam kneels in front of her, ready to guide, ready to support, ready to witness something extraordinary. And then it happens. Emily rises. Slowly. Shakily. Her legs tremble like fragile saplings in a storm, wavering under the weight of gravity and disbelief. Every step is deliberate, every movement a triumph over fear, over trauma, over months of doubt. Her body quivers, her breaths come in shallow gasps, but she continues. Step by step. Alexander's heart races. A lump forms in his throat. He had dreamed of this moment, imagined it endlessly, but nothing could prepare him for the reality of watching his daughter walk again. Tears spill freely, unashamed and unrestrained. Tears the staff have never seen. Tears the mansion has not witnessed in years. His hands tremble as he reaches toward her, the immense relief and joy nearly overwhelming him. Emily reaches out to Liam mid-step, and he instinctively steadies her, gripping her hands tightly. Her eyes shine with gratitude, and she hugs him with the kind of warmth that melts the last remnants of loneliness from his heart. "Thank you," she whispers. "Thank you, Liam, for everything." She repeats it again. And again. Each word is an echo of the journey they have shared, the nights of fear, the days of laughter, the moments of courage and hope. Liam smiles, quietly, humbly, as though the gravity of the moment hasn't fully settled on him yet. But the most extraordinary moment, the one no one in the room sees coming, is still ahead. In the weeks that follow, the story spreads. Cameras flash. Reporters whisper. The world leans in, hungry for inspiration. And Alexander Hart, a man accustomed to commanding attention through wealth and power, chooses a different kind of announcement, a declaration from the heart. At a crowded press conference, surrounded by flashing lights and murmuring journalists, Alexander steps forward. His voice, steady but brimming with emotion, carries across the room. The words he speaks leave the world stunned. He is officially adopting Liam. The boy who once slept beneath the shadows of an abandoned train station, who survived hunger, fear, and neglect, is now a son. A family surrounds him, a father, a sister, a home. A future full of possibility stretches out before him, vast and uncharted, yet welcoming. From forgotten child to hero to son. Liam's life, once defined by survival, is transformed into a story of hope, courage, and belonging. The world watches in awe as a life that seemed destined for struggle is reshaped by bravery, compassion, and the extraordinary power of one small heart refusing to turn away. Emily walks beside him now, guiding his hands into hers, smiling with a radiance she had once lost. Alexander wraps an arm around both of them, tears spilling freely, a father finally witnessing the miracle of family restored. And the story resonates far beyond the walls of the mansion. People everywhere hear of the homeless boy who became a savior, who became a light in the darkness, who became family. It is a story of courage. A story of kindness. A story that reminds the world that sometimes, the smallest, quietest, most overlooked hearts carry the greatest power. Liam's journey has not just changed his life. It has changed Emily. It has changed Alexander. It has changed everyone who witnesses the proof that hope, courage, and love can create miracles where none seemed possible. And in that truth, the world is forever altered. Because sometimes, heroes come from the places we least expect. And sometimes, family is found in the most unlikely of strangers. If this story moved you, Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. And don't forget to subscribe to Folktales by Lydia for more stories that inspire, amaze, and touch the heart.